Hi, this is Mr. Chu and I welcome you to my study room. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, then this is the time for you to do that. I encourage you to pause this video and go quickly to subscribe and come back and let's continue. Good. In my video just before this one, we explained into details what algebraic expressions are, and I promise that in the next one, we are going to learn how to form algebraic expressions. So that is what we are going to do today. Our lesson is forming algebraic expressions. Let's go straight into the lessons. Thank you. In explaining algebraic expressions, I stated clearly that letters and symbols are used to represent unknown quantities in algebraic expressions. I want to add that any letter may be used, but different letters must be used for different quantities. For example, if you are talking about pencils and erasers, then obviously if you use X for the number of pencils you have, you cannot use the same X for number of erasers because you are talking about two different things. So that is just what that point means. Then I should also add that simple logic is required to translate a set of instructions into algebraic expression. When they say the things are put together, you should know that we are talking about addition. And here I'm going to give you some hints you need to know so that when the expression is given, you will know which basic operation to use. So let me talk about addition first. For you to add, you should be looking out for phrases like increase by. For example, we said a number increased by 8 or increased by 10. But we don't know the number yet. So since we don't know the number, let me just say example. Since we don't know the number, we can call the number x. Then increase by 10 means that the number plus 10. So the expression becomes x plus 10. Another phrase we can look out for to know that it's addition is when we say more than. Let me write that quickly. For example, if I say that his age is 5 more than his brother's age, then since we don't know his brother's age, we'll let his brother's age be x or any other variable. Maybe let me say p. Then a number that is 5 more than p will be p plus 5. That is another example. Then another phrase we can think about is added to. Added to. So for example, when 11 is added to a number, the result is 21. I'll be treating equations later, so I will just write the 11 being added to the number. Then it means that you're going to have 11. No, we are going to 11 is what is added to the number. So you are going to have the number first plus 11. Someone may ask, what is the difference? There's no difference actually because addition is commutative, but I just want to write it the way it was said in the question. It said 11 added to a number. So that means I should have the number first, then I add 11 to it. That's just the reason why I cancelled the 11 by writing the number first. I hope that makes a lot of sense. So these are a few phrases that are used for addition. Then let's go to subtraction. When you know you have to use subtraction. With subtraction, we are going to have phrases like decrease by. An example would be the number of shoes in the room decreased by 8. It means that if there are x shoes in the room, which we don't know, so we are using the x to represent, then if it decreased by 8, it means to be x minus 8. So decrease by is just giving us a hint that we should use subtraction sign. Then another phrase for subtraction will be less than. For example, Kofi is 5 years less than his sister. So that means Kofi's age will be his sister's age, which we don't know. So maybe let's call it y minus 5 will give us Kofi's age. So this is 5 less than y. That is it. Then for the same subtraction, we can have expressions subtracted from. Let's say 7 is subtracted from a number. That means if the number is m, then it will be m minus 7. So subtracted from gives us the hint that we should use subtraction sign. Then let's go on to multiplication. For example, we have a phrase like the product of. Then it tells us multiplication. For example, the product of P and Q is 100. So we are just concentrating on the product of P and Q because again I'll treat equations later. So product of P and Q will be P times Q, which we learned from our previous lesson that is the same as PQ. Then not only that, we can also have a number of times a quantity. A number of times a quantity. An example would be 5 times a quantity, which we don't know. So if the quantity, we choose to call that quantity maybe y, then 5 times that quantity will be 5 times y, which we learned in our previous video as 5y. 7 times m will give us 7m, and it continues in that order. There are also specific expressions like twice a number, thrice a number. So for example, twice a number is the same as 2 times, if the number is n, that will be 2 times n, which will give us 2n. Thrice a number, that means 3 times the number. So let's say the number is m, it will give us 3m, and the list continues. Let's go to the next operation, basic operation, which is division. For division, we will see phrases like divided by. For example, when they say a number is divided by 7, that means since we don't know the number, we say in algebraic expression, if you don't know the number, represent with a quantity. If the number is p, then mean that p divided by 7. Then that will give us p over 7. Since multiplication and division, we don't really write them always. Then that is not the only expression. We can have the quotient. The quotient. For example, the question said the quotient of 2 numbers is, let's say, 21 or this and that. So it means that since they didn't give us the 2 numbers, it means that here you need 2 symbols or 2 letters. So that can be x divided by y, if your 2 numbers are x or y, and that is the same as x over y. That is the quotient of 2 numbers. Let's continue. We can also have expressions like half of. The half of a number is the same as the number divided by 2. So if the number is x, then to be x over 2. Though half can also be expressed, half of can, because of the of, it can also be expressed as multiplication, which is the same as 1 over 2 times x. But since I'm talking about division, I want to stick to this one. Then we can also have another specific one as a third of. This means the number is divided by 3. So if let's say if the number is p, then it will be p over 3. That is a third of p. Then we can also have another specific one as a fifth of. So example, if the number is, let's say, q, then a fifth of q is q divided by 5, sorry. And we can continue with more examples. So these are few examples as to how we can form algebraic expressions. I just want to take you through some few other examples that will require us to do this directly for us to get used to what we are doing. For example, if we have 2 more than x, what is it going to be? I want you to pause the video and try. 2 more than x. I hope the answer you had for 2 more than x is x plus 2. Good. Then what about if we have 1 less than x? So for each question, you can pause the video right then you check. I'm sure you had 1 less than x to be x minus 1. What about if you have 4 times x? I'm sure you had 4x as your answer. What about half of x? Half of x. I'm sure that gives you x over 2. That is not all. Let's take another example. 3/4 of x. 3/4 of x. So of in mathematics means multiplication. So 3/4 is 3 over 4 of x. So I'm sure that should give you 3 over 4x, or some people write it 3x over 4 is correct. Then 4 less than x. What will you have for that one? 4 less than x. I'm sure it gave you x minus 4. Good. If you got that one, fine. If you didn't get it, only means that you should go back and check how we started it. Let's take more examples like x is less than 2 times x. X is less than 2 times x. Remember how we did it, 4 less than. So it means that it is going to give us 2 times x is 2x, then minus x. So that is x is less than 2 times x. 3 times x less than 2 times x. So 3 times x less than 2 times x. Remember, the one that is less than always comes after the minus sign. So 3 times x less than 2 times x is going to be 2x minus 3x, because it is 3 times x less than 2 times x. I hope we are all following. We are following gradually. Good. That's not all. 1/3 of x less than x. 1/3 of x less than x. What is that going to give us? That is going to be x minus x over 3, because this is 1/3 of x, then less than x. So 1/5 of x more than 6. 1/5 of x more than 6. That is going to be 6 plus 1/5 of x. So x over 5, or 1 over 5 times x is the same as x over 5. They said that is more than 6. So that's what it's supposed to be. I hope we are all following. 1/5 of x more than 6. Let's take more examples. Sum of p and q. I'm sure you have p plus q. Product of p and q. I'm sure you have pq. 13. Sum of twice p and q. So I'm sure you got 2p to stand for the twice p and q, and the plus stand for the sum. Sum of 1/4 p and 2/3 of q. So 1/4 p is 1 over 4 p, which is the same as p over 4, then plus 2/3 q. So that is 2 over 3 times q, which will give us 2q over 3, or 2 over 3q by the side. So that is what the expressions stand for. Example 15 is product of thrice p and twice q. Product of thrice p and twice q. So this is thrice p, 3 times p, which is 3p. Product means times, then twice q, which when we want to simplify it will give us 6pq. But we are just learning how to form the expressions for now. So that is it. Then product of 2/5 p and q. So 2/5 p is 2 over 5p, which is the same as 2p over 5, and q. So product of 2/5 p and q. Let's take a bit more complex one. X and y are two numbers and x is greater than y. Write down an expression for the difference between the two numbers. So this is what we do here. In mathematics, difference means the bigger number minus the smaller one always gives us the difference. So whenever they ask you to find the difference between two numbers, they are just asking you to do the big one minus the small one. So they say if x is bigger than y, then you should find an expression for their difference. So that will obviously be x minus y, because x is bigger than y and difference is the bigger number minus the smaller one. Then there's another one here. There are 30 students in a class and x of them are boys. Write down an expression for the number of girls in the class. The number of boys in the class plus the number of girls in the class is going to give us a total, which in this case is 30. So if we are looking for the number of girls in the class, since they gave us the number of boys in the class, then it will just be the total minus the number of boys in the class to give us the number of girls in the class. So an expression for the number of girls in the class will be 30, which is the total, minus the boys in the class, which they gave us as x, and that is going to give us the number of girls in the class. I feel like these 18 examples are enough for you to be able to form algebraic expressions from statements. So I encourage you to play back this and go over if you're having challenges in getting any of them. I already advise you to pause the video at each time and write the expression before you look at mine. So in case you didn't get any of them, it means that you need to pause and go back to the way we started it, and I'm sure it will give you a lot of guidance. Up next are a few questions for you to form algebraic expressions from. Pause the video, form the expressions, and share your answers with me in the comment box if possible. Thank you for having time with me in my study room. Now go through the questions. Welcome back. I'm sure this video has helped you to overcome some challenges you might be having with forming algebraic expressions. Right. This is not the end of it. In subsequent videos, you are going to solve word problems into details using these basic guidelines we have gone through today. So on this note, I want to seriously encourage you to subscribe to this channel if you haven't done that yet, because there is more to come, especially for those who have challenges with solving word problems. Thank you for making time with me in my study room, and I hope to see you again. Thank you. Bye-bye.